From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on October 10th, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. I'm fresh off a plane. Can you tell?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, no delays. All my bags. No TSA problems. It's like kind of fantastic. On this episode of The Lead, we have an exclusive one-on-one sit-down interview with Senator Lindsey Graham, our senior senator, and this episode is dedicated just to that, mostly because also I just got off a plane. Long week, but this is a great interview. We were fortunate to get some time with him during a very tricky little week, but more on that in a moment. We would love to have a one-on-one with you, and in order to do that, well, it's kind of a one-sided one-on-one, but nevertheless, you can be our dedicated interviewee in our wind-down section. If you call 803-563-7169, call right now and get 50% off MeUndies by using the code 803-563-7169 or Blue Apron. We want to hear from you guys. Give us something to talk about in the wind-down section. You will remember.
Why?
You will remember.
Okay.
That we spent the week in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., with the original intention of spending time with our 9-member congressional delegation, our 7 House members, and 2 senators.
Oh, wow, man.
It would have been chaotic, but we were going to do it. We were excited. We had them lined up. But House Speaker Mike Johnson said there wouldn't be any votes as he continues to play hardball with the Senate on the federal shutdown, which, as of this taping, is on day 10. And there's no sign of it abating anytime soon. So we lost all of our interviews.
No way.
Except one, Senator Lindsey Graham.
All right.
We caught up with him on Tuesday after the Judiciary Committee meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi. To his credit, he was exceptionally punctual, which is always good, except when you're kind of scrambling to finish setting up cameras and lights. But it worked out. It was perfect. It was great. And a bit of a silver lining here is that we had a solid 30 minutes with him and didn't have to rush to interview other people before or after him as we had originally planned. But Graham, who is the Budget Committee chairman, met me and producer Amy Crouch in his conference room. Now, his office is in the Russell Building, and it's an easy walk right to the Capitol if you're not using the tunnel, which we were not doing because we were not credentialed. But it was nice. It was wonderful weather in Washington. However, that's not what you want to hear about. You want to hear about our wide-ranging interview on Tuesday, October 7th, on several topics, including a potential peace deal between Hamas and Israel that has now since solidified further. But I opened by asking Graham about the shutdown.
Some common sense, I hope, will prevail. What is this all about? Well, there's some Obamacare subsidies that are going to expire at the end of the year. This program was connected to Obamacare and COVID. And if you're not on Medicaid or Medicare, there's some subsidies in the law to help with pay Obamacare premiums that are going to go way up. This program has been full of fraud. Insurance companies get paid by the number of people they enroll. Mm-hmm. Some of these people I don't think even exist. CBO said it could be up to 1.4 million illegal immigrants. But having said that, I'm willing to reform the program and keep some of it in place, but not by having a gun to our head about the government shutdown. So to my Democratic colleagues, we're not going to tie these two together. If it's healthcare today, it'll be something else tomorrow. So let's open up the government, get a group of people working on dealing with the fraud issues, the reform issues, and run the place like, we're adults. So I'm hoping that happens sooner rather than later because it's going to begin to affect people at the airport and other places.
Senator, to that end, when we talk about trying to make things move and get that solution, Democrats counter by saying, put it in writing. How about we get some sort of commitment here to make some moves with these subsidies? How can you guarantee that everything kind of keeps moving?
I can guarantee you that people on the Republican Party side want to reform this program and make it more efficient and less costly for the taxpayer. It expires in December. There's a bunch of us willing to do that. This is just not the way. If you start tying policy outcomes to funding the government, it gets to be chaos. We did this as Republicans. So we shut the government down for 34 days, I think, trying to make Democrats build the wall. Now, building the wall was popular. Some of these subsidies are popular, but it didn't work out for us. It's not going to work out for them. I just have learned, let's don't take policy disputes and tie it to running the government, because that's unending. And the chaos is going to show up. People are going to have a hard time getting through the airport. There's some programs going to expire this week, and it really will begin to hurt people.
But do you want to see those subsidies actually expanded to or made permanent?
Well, I want to reform the program. I mean, again, insurance companies are making a ton of money just by signing people up. We believe there may be thousands of people on this program that really don't even exist. Not much check and balance to it.
When we talk about negative effects of a shutdown and concerns about that, what message does that send to our adversaries, to our allies alike, that we're having a hard time getting our house in order? We're maybe keeping our eye not so much on what's going on elsewhere in the world.
Well, they probably have more problems than we do. I don't see any really well-run place right now. But yeah, I think the consequence of shutting down the government to the military becomes real over time, to being able to fly safely. It does have a downstream effect. And to my Democratic colleagues, we'll talk about health care. We'll try to fix this program. Let's just open up the government. Because we do it now with health care to be something later. Again, we did this before, so I've sort of learned from our mistakes.
Let's pivot to tariffs and inflation. We're talking about costs. That was a big issue when it came to the election. Inflation remains stubborn. Prices are still somewhat high. The labor market's slowing. There's concerns about stagflation. Recession's not really a factor, but stagflation is. I talked to Dr. Joey Von Nessen with USC recently, and he said that he called the economy sluggish at this point. How concerned are you about where things are going right now, and what do you think it needs to be done to bring costs down and get a hold of inflation? I
think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rebalance trade. The tariffs sort of have a couple of purposes that make sense to me. Mexico, if you're not helping us deal with the fentanyl poisoning of America and other countries, then we'll put tariffs on your products to get you to help. That has really worked. Canada's helping, Mexico's helping, other people are helping. The threat of tariffs to deal with bad behavior has worked. The threat of tariffs to get better trade deals has worked. The deal with the European Union is a great deal for America and really a good deal for Europe. It was only when Trump threatened tariffs that worked. Now, the other problem is if you just put tariffs on goods to raise money for the American Treasury, I think the world would pay a 10 to 15% surcharge to do business in America. But you go much beyond that, then I think they'll retaliate and it could create inflation. So 3 lanes: tariffs to change bad behavior, tariffs to break down, to get better trade deals, to break down unfair trade practices. Like Australia would not buy American beef because it had GMOs. Well, that was kind of an unfair trade practice. We all eat beef, we're fine. Once he threatened tariffs against Australia, they changed their policy. So that's all good. But generally speaking, using tariffs to run the government, to raise money to run the government, has a limit to it, and it could be inflationary.
But when we talk about that and the inflationary aspects of it, how do we maybe make this a little bit more cohesive and unified?
The more trade deals, the better, because we now have certainty with Europe. We're looking at doing trade deals with China, which is a big abuser of American trade. They steal our intellectual property. They dump steel on the market below cost. They do a bunch of things to deny us market share. I want to use tariffs to get Russia to the peace table. An example of how tariffs could be effective is start putting tariffs on countries that buy Russian oil and gas to keep Putin's war machine going. The biggest offender is China. China, Brazil, and India are the 3 largest customers of Putin's Russian oil and gas, and Trump's gone after India, and that's beginning to work.
When's that going to actually take place? I mean, we've been talking about this, but what's the hold up?
So he put a 25% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. He's talking about China. I talked to him yesterday. I've got a bill to make Russia a state sponsor of terrorism under U.S. law for kidnapping over 19,000, almost 20,000 Ukrainian kids. My bill to authorize President Trump to put tariffs on people that buy Russian oil and gas has 85 votes. I want to pass that, if I can, by the end of October to give him some juice, some congressional blessing of what he's doing, which I think makes him stronger. But Europe needs to step up. They've sanctioned Russia to death, but they really haven't come after China or India. I don't think you can solve this war in Ukraine until China helps more.
I want to talk more about economic development and investment.
Okay.
We were talking about electric vehicle manufacturing,
Yes.
batteries, and all the tangential suppliers related to that.
Yeah.
You were in Florence recently campaigning there. You were asked about AESC, the battery plant that's being built there. It's a multi-billion-dollar investment.
Yeah.
When we look at that kind of money being thrown around, and again, going back to the president wanting to bring those manufacturing jobs back to America, but then you see this plant being paused because of tariff uncertainty and also the recession bill when it comes to EV investment. How do you bring a manufacturing back when you have these issues?
Well, so number one, we're becoming sort of a battery center for the EV world, but the $7,500 subsidy to buy an electrical vehicle skews the market. Guess what? When we did away with that tax credit to buy an electric vehicle, the price of an electric vehicle went down by $7,500. So what I want to do is make sure that you have choices. If you want a battery car, electric car, you can have one. If you want a hybrid, you can have one. And our footprint in South Carolina is pretty impressive, but I think you're going to see more hybrid manufacturers where you'll have a combustible engine component plus a battery component. I think that's probably going to be the bridge to a bigger EV fleet.
But are you concerned about what message it sends to the investment that's already kind of sunk their costs in somewhere?
I think we need to send an honest message. If you're going to build a battery plant, don't count on the $7,500 tax credit because that skews the economy. But I think President Trump, in terms of incentivizing people to come back to America, is actually working. I hear a lot from the steel industry in South Carolina. They feel more competitive. He's relieving some of the tariffs on cars. BMW makes cars in Greenville, sells them all over the world. I want American foreign manufacturers like BMW who make the content in America mostly and sell the car overseas to get a export credit against the tariffs.
Okay.
Because the goal is not only to get companies to come into the country and come back, but create export opportunities, lower our trade imbalances. So BMW is a kind of a win-win there.
When we talk about the deficit, part of the shutdown is talking about those ACA tax credits.
Yeah.
That would add, if they were made permanent, I think $349 billion over the next decade. The deficit just grew by $2 trillion in the last fiscal year. Yeah. When is spending going to get under control?
So the big beautiful bill, I was the budget chairman, had a making the tax cuts permanent, and we added some things to it. The CBO said that if you use dynamic scoring, it would reduce the deficit over a decade by almost $500 billion. So I do believe we need these tax cuts to be certain to keep the economy growing so people know what their tax bill will be. We had money for the border, we had money for the military. So I'm hoping that making these tax cuts permanent will give some certainty to the economy. The average family in South Carolina, if the Trump tax cuts had expired, would have been about $2,100, $2,200 loss because the child tax credits were going to phase out.
So you are on the Judiciary Committee, ranking member there.
Yeah.
You're also on the Judiciary Subcommittee on Border Security and Immigration.
Yes.
Illegal immigration, major issue everyone was talking about. We're still talking about it. We've seen illegal border crossings dramatically decrease.
Amazing.
But we're also seeing a lot of aggressive enforcement tactics being taken place in places like Los Angeles, now Chicago.
Right.
As a result of raids in Chicago, there have been more than 1,000 arrests of immigrants. But even American citizens and immigrants with legal status are getting swept up in these events. So how do you characterize these tactics and raids? Can this be done better to ensure
you're trying to find a
guaranteed?
balance or a sweet spot, right? So the truth of the matter is we're going to need access to labor outside the country on rational terms. Like the agricultural industry's heavy immigrant workforce. Why? You just can't find the workers here after you try. Now, I don't want any American or South Carolinian to lose their job because of some foreign work program. But there'll come a point when you'll advertise in a meat packing plant or agriculture, some of the heavy hard work industries that you just can't find the labor force. Well, bringing people outside the country who work hard, pay taxes, and do it right is a win-win. Biden obliterated the border. There are over 11 million people. This thing started illegally, going after gangs, and you sweep some people up that are not in that profile, and they're still here illegally. What I'm trying to do is make sure that we send the signals that don't come here illegally. It's not worth your time to slow down the inflow, trying to get a control of what's going on in the country, then move to a fix. I've been working on this for years, and I talk to President Trump about it all the time. We're a declining population. The birth rate in America is going down. and we're going to have a hard time over time having the labor force we need. So rational immigration that can be a win-win is the key. The people who've been here a long time, who kept their nose clean and learn the language and get back to the line, I've always been open to that idea. But the point is, you've got to control your border. And sanctuary cities are magnets for future illegal immigration, like Chicago. There are over 100,000 illegal immigrants in Chicago. Now, why is that bad for South Carolina? Anytime you have major sanctuary cities in America, it sends a signal throughout the world, if you can get to one of these cities, you're okay. Well, that puts pressure on the immigration system. You'll never have legal immigration reform until you convince people in America that you can control your border and you can control illegal immigration. Once you convince them of that, I think we're a fair-minded people, then you can move to legal immigration. Part of this ICE, these raids, are to make sure that people who use cheap illegal immigrant labor, the employers, they have to pay a price. So, but I am looking for balance. I don't want it to go to the point that, the taxes get to be so disruptive that, it traumatizes people unnecessarily.
Some would say it's already kind of happening, though.
Yeah, to some extent, we'll see. I don't know how you fix this problem without disruption. 11 million people came across the border in 4 years. That's twice the size of South Carolina. We got to get a grip on it. So the reason it's disruptive is because it's such a major problem. The best way to have avoided this is to control your border. So you can talk about Trump and ICE all you want. He's dealing with a mess that he inherited. And the sooner we can control our immigration flow, the sooner we can move to a rational legal immigration system that's a win-win. And I've been trying that for years.
But when we talk about warrants and needing to have it done legally, are there any concerns what it might be doing to rights, our constitutional rights?
Well, if you're here illegally, you've broken our law. And you can't have it, but once you obliterate the border and literally have twice the size of South Carolina come in here illegally, you're going to have to match that with an equal effort. We had mass illegal immigration. We're going to have to have mass deportation to get back to balance. This whole system is out of balance, and the only way you're going to get it back in balance is to enforce the law and control your border.
Senator, the FBI just released a document showing that Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, as part of Operation Arctic Frost, the investigation into the January 6th riot, obtained data about senators' phones, including yours, from January 4th through January 7th in 2021. That data shows when and to whom a call was made, as well as the duration and general location of that call, but it does not include the content of the call. So
that's what they say.
That's what they say. Okay. What can you tell us about this? What have you been made aware of?
I got a call yesterday from the FBI. I was floored. I'm the chairman of the judiciary in January 4th through the 7th. We're trying to figure out how should I vote to certify the election. I wound up voting to certify the election, but I had a duty, like every other senator, to find out the best they could what happened. This is pretty chilling. From the time that President Trump announced in September of 2022 that he's going to run for president, he had 5 efforts by different jurisdictions to indict and prosecute him. I'm convinced if he had never run for president again, that none of this would happen. Now, in 2023, they get 8 United States senators. The FBI, under Jack Smith, apparently issues a subpoena to my phone carrier wanting to know who I called, where I was at, and how long it lasted. That bothers the heck out of me. Whether you like me or not, that's not the issue. I'm in a separate branch of government. There's a check and balance process here. This is really unnerving.
But it was pretty unprecedented what happened on January 6th, too. So, wasn't that... To get that data, isn't that just part of an investigation that they were building the case?
No, it's not. It's not okay to seize the phone records of his existing United States senator who has a constitutional duty to vote to certify the election. I'm the judiciary chairman. Should I hold hearings? No, it's not okay at all. Not at all. And I don't know what happened, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. And if it's an abuse of the Constitution, I will sue.
And this came up also in the hearing that you just came back from in judiciary with Attorney General Pam Bondi, talking about the political weaponization of the Department of Justice. Do you believe that that is happening right now, or has that just been a part of the precedent of what's happening?
So I believe it happened on Trump's watch. I believe from the time he announced in 2022 all these Like, he was charged with a crime in Manhattan that nobody had ever been charged with in the history of Manhattan. They took misdemeanors and somehow turned them into felonies. James, the Attorney General, Jack Smith. So yeah, we're going to get to the bottom of all this. As to Comey, I said in 2020 when he testified before the committee, I was the chairman of the committee, I didn't believe a word he said. I did not believe that the FBI director received a memo from the intelligence community in 2016 saying that this whole Russian narrative may be started by the Clinton campaign. They may be trying to label Trump a Russian asset for political purposes, and he doesn't recall that. In February of 2017, the man who provided the information to Christopher Steele, who was on the payroll of the Clinton campaign, the Steele dossier, recanted to the FBI that it was hearsay, bar talk, and they used that document twice more. Why did that not get sent to the FISA court? This is exculpatory information, that you have intelligence reporting that it was part of a plot by his opponent, Clinton, to get Trump. You actually have the man who provided the information that created the dossier saying it's bar talk, hearsay, never meant to be used in court. Why was none of that ever sent to the FISA court? I'm glad they're looking at Comey.
Talking more about troops and enforcement and Department of Justice, we saw National Guard troops have been deployed to U.S. cities. Even here in Washington, D.C., we see them out and about, milling around a little bit. Are you concerned at all when it comes to, how this could be a slippery slope into something else? There are people who are concerned that this could be turned into a way for the president to seize more power, in a sense, and invade cities and control cities. Is there any credence to that? Are you concerned about that?
I'm okay with what's going on because I live here when I'm not at home. This is my work site, and I can tell you it's better going around Washington than it's been in the last long time. Chicago's a sanctuary city with over 100,000 legal immigrants. Now, what does that matter? If a city is a sanctuary city, as I said before, it becomes a magnet. So I'm glad we're dealing with this. I hate the fact it got this much out of control, but the National Guard, if they can help expedite cleaning up this mess, good. But generally speaking, no, I don't want to use troops in furtherance of law enforcement functions. That's for law enforcement, but this is different. I think the amount of drugs being trafficked in our country is a national security threat. Blowing up the boats, Venezuela. I told President Trump right after he got elected, do me a favor, look at these drug cartels as enemies of the United States. They're killing more people than anybody. The fentanyl coming across the border, a lot of it originates in the Caribbean and Venezuela. And they're really at war with the American people. Drug trafficking, human trafficking. Why shouldn't we treat these drug cartels as national security threats, foreign terrorist organizations, and use military force? Every one of these boats, we believe, has drugs bound for America that will kill Americans, so stop them. So I'm all for that.
And when we talk about that, we hear the president say things like the enemy from within the country, and then people are, again, kind of going back to my previous question about using the National Guard troops to quell any violence that might just be run-of-the-mill violence in some ways, but now we're throwing troops on the streets.
Unlike, I don't know of anybody being put in jail for not liking Trump. I know a lot of people that were around Trump. I wound up spending $1 million to defend myself in Georgia for making phone calls to find out whether or not I need to certify the election. So that kind of falls on deaf ears. But we live in dangerous times and, try to find the balance.
To that end, we're speaking on the second anniversary of the Hamas invasion of Israel. We're heading to the third year of this. Ceasefire talks are loosely in process right now. They're optimistic. Trump says the deal's not too far away, which is promising. Do you believe a deal can be struck, a lasting deal?
I hope. So what would make it lasting? If Hamas disarms. If they don't disarm, they'll do it again. Now, October 7th was 2 years ago today. We're doing this on Tuesday. What people forget is not just the brutality. Why did they film it? Why did they want a record of their brutal assault, killing children and raping women? They wanted to drive a wedge between Israel and the Arab world so that Saudi Arabia couldn't recognize Israel. Iran's biggest nightmare is if the Arabs and the Israelis make peace, leaving them behind. Hamas is funded by Iran almost completely. Even though they're a Sunni group, I think the attack of October 7th was generated to stop normalization that was very close to happening. This was on Biden's watch. I went to Riyadh and Jerusalem 8 times with Tony Blinken and the entire Biden team, Brett McGurk, Jake Sullivan, trying to build on the Abraham Accords to get Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel, which would be the effective end of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It's been a great success story. I tried to help President Biden and his team. October the 7th was designed to stop that. There's actually going to be an announcement of the framework of normalization by the end of October of 2023. And it was designed to do what it did, to drive a wedge. Support for a two-state solution is really low in Israel, and the Arab world's inflamed because all they see on TV is kids being killed in Gaza. So I'm going to try to re-engage with President Trump. Once Hamas is eliminated, I hope there will be a deal where the hostages are released and Israel moves back. But Israel cannot withdraw until there's a commitment of Hamas to disarm.
And if they don't at that point, would you say it's...
Finish them off.
That's it.
Finish them off. I'm hoping and praying we can do this in 2 steps. The hostages come out, then we can talk about a Palestinian Gaza West Bank minus Hamas. They disarm. They're no longer a threat to the Palestinian people of Israel. If we can't pull that off, then let Israel finish Hamas off. You can't have peace in the Mideast with Hezbollah still in being. It's a Shiite terrorist group in Lebanon. The Lebanese people, through their government, have asked Hezbollah to disarm. You will not have sustainable peace until you deal with Hezbollah. So if you can finish Hamas off through diplomacy or military action, then help Lebanon disarm Hezbollah, I think you'll have a new Mideast. That would weaken Iran. Their major proxies would be neutralized, keep Iran in a box until they change financially, then see if you can get Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel, and that would chart a path for more Arab countries recognizing Israel, which changes the Mideast.
So we're going to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But Senator, we have a hot war on the European continent with Europe, with Russia invading Ukraine. It's been 3.5 years now. We see Russia now mess with NATO airspace. At what point does NATO hit back? I mean, when does it? When's the red line going to happen?
That's a really good question. These drones are unarmed at this point, but they're very provocative. I think Putin is going to go as far as he can until somebody stops it. He's the aggressor, not Ukraine. I don't blame Ukraine. I blame Putin. In the mid-90s, the Ukrainians gave up 1,700 nuclear weapons they had in Ukraine as part of the old Soviet Union when the Soviet Union collapsed. They agreed to give those weapons to Russia with a promise to honor their sovereignty. The British, the French, and the Russians made that deal. Putin broke that deal. He's invaded Ukraine twice. I think he wants to gobble up as much of Ukraine as he can because it's minerally rich, and he has ambitions to recreate the Russian Empire. I'm very pleased that President Trump is giving Ukraine long-range weapons to increase the cost of Putin to prosecute the war. President Trump's putting tariffs on India, but we all need to up our game when it comes to China. I don't think you're going to end this war until you get China to help, and the more pressure we can put on China, the better.
And I was going to ask you more about China, but we don't have to get too much into it because you do see these alliances growing. But people give you a hard time for doing so much international. You're so involved in international affairs. What do you say to those critics back home who say he doesn't focus enough on South Carolina? I focus a lot on South Carolina. I would say, remember 9/11. When you take your eye off the ball, you pay a price. If we could go back in time, what would we have done differently before 9/11? We'd paid more attention to the buildup of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. If you think Al-Qaeda is done with us, you're not living in the real world. If you think ISIS won't come back if they get here, you're not living in a real world. So here's what I would tell anybody. My job is to take care of South Carolina's interest in Washington, but also to take care of the nation's interest. As long as I'm a United States Senator, we're going to keep the war over there the best we can so it doesn't come here again. We're going to hit them before they hit us. They're homicidal maniacs. They're not going to stop fighting you because you're tired of fighting them. The good news is we're making partnerships over there where we have to do less of the fighting. We haven't lost one soldier in Ukraine. We're helping Ukraine. When it comes to the Mideast, there's a new Mideast emerging where they're willing to do the fighting with our help. So I would say this, if you want America to be safe, make sure Al-Qaeda and ISIS never get a chemical or a nuclear device that could attack our country. And the best way to do that is disrupt them over there before they get here. Yeah, I do a lot of things. I help expand the Port of Charleston. I was the budget chairman that passed the one big beautiful bill with the tax cuts and money for the military and the border. But one thing I'm proud of, and I'll never back off on,
is understanding the threats of the world to make sure they don't come back to our shores. As long as I'm your senator, I'm going to spend some time watching them over there to protect us here.
And that being said, and wrapping up here, you're 70 years old, you're running for your 5th term. What motivates you? You kind of just put a button on it right there, but what's driving you to keep running, to keep serving?
I think I'm better at my job today than I've ever been. I talked to BB all weekend about what does he need to get this deal done. I've become a very close friend of the President of the United States. We're going to play golf this weekend. There's very few people in the world I don't know that matter to us that I can't pick up a phone call and talk to. When it comes to home, I was the budget chairman. I was able to help get the bill through the Senate because I know how the Senate works. When there's a problem at home, I think I'm in good position to fix it. When we have a problem at the Port of Charleston, I can work with Democrats to help us. I've tried to reach across the aisle to solve problems. Kavanaugh, I think I had a big impact on getting us a conservative Supreme Court. I think I'm better at my job today than I've ever been. I feel fine, but there'll come a day when my time is up. And I'll tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more able to do my job. I'm better at it than any time since I've been in the job because I've worked hard to learn what works and what doesn't. And I like it. I like it more today. I like being able to shape the future of our state and our country. And if people will honor me with 6 more years, I'll make sure I don't let them down.
I mean, you're tight with the president, so that's
Trump, people ask, how did this happen? I said, well, we found common ground. We played golf. I didn't like him at first, but I've come to like him, and he likes him, and that's what we have in common.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham in Washington on October 7th. Now, if you like listening to it, you can also see it by going to youtube.com/@ the @ symbol, South Carolina News. Yes, you have to put the @ sign. That episode will also air next Friday at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 1:30 p.m. And Senator Graham will also be on Meet the Press this Sunday, but you don't need to watch that because you just listened to my interviews. So sorry, Kristen. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer.
Gavin, I'm just glad you're here in studio.
It's good to be here.
You finally made it. You haven't had a chance to wind down.
No.
You literally came out of the sky into the studio.
Correct.
Truly.
Even I was like, do you want me to do this at the airport in D.C.? You're like, no, just get here.
It's going to be easy enough.
And it would have been a nightmare, honestly. Like we did that. Remember, like we did that podcast taping with Rob Godfrey.
I will remember. Yes.
I will. And
yes.
No, Amy and I were sitting in the airport moments ago.
Yeah, mere moments
ago. And the birds are flying in there because they're trapped in there, but they're pretty good because there are no crumbs anywhere.
Yeah, it's like having a dog and your floors are clean. Anyway, Gavin, we do have a call. It's a shorty but a goodie. So if you're ready, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, hey there. It's Amy from Prosperity. I get the Newberry Observer. And I just wanted to thank you guys. You were part of a clue for the New York Times Connection on October, what's today, the 9th? LEDE was one of the clues, and I got it. Maybe after the second or third time, but I got it. So thank you for your good work. Take care.
We love to be helpful when we can, Amy. Thank you so much. Yeah, those New York Times connections are tricky.
Good on you, Gavin, for naming this podcast in a way that made you have to spell it for the rest of your life.
We are a crossword puzzle clue.
You were doing that for...
Answer.
You decided 655 episodes ago to do this as a foreshadow to that connection. Amy, thank you for listening. Thank you for playing New York Times. But also, I'm pissed at the New York Times. I don't pay.
Oh.
And they took away the mini.
Well, I think that's the solution there. You got to start paying, Bubba, because I subscribe and I don't even do the mini anymore because I don't even have time.
It truly is something that took me like 30 seconds a day.
It's fun.
And how much it bothers me that they put it behind a paywall.
Sorry.
It's so lame.
They know what they're doing.
Shame on you, New York Times.
I do the Wordle and sometimes the mini when I'm at the gym. When I'm reading my newsletters, I'm like, okay, and if I can't get the Wordle, I refuse to be that frustrated early in the morning, so I just walk away from it.
Good for you.
I say, no, not today, devil.
Speaking
D-E-V-I-L.
of D-E-V-I-L, an evil one 5 letters. Gavin, speaking of walking away, I had an all-time bad Philadelphia day yesterday.
Yeah, here we go.
Not only did the Eagles lose, which 2 times you're gone.
That's right.
You're gone for 2 games.
And
they
we
lose both
called
the
it.
games.
Yeah, sorry.
And also within that same hour, the Phillies lost in the playoffs in an embarrassing fashion.
Mamma mia.
So I do blame you for both, and I hold you accountable for that.
Hate that. I guess I'm not part of the Eagles universe.
Second shame in the
Don't
whole
worry,
show.
I'm back now, folks. Be safe.
You and the New York Times both shamed here, but Gavin, it's
Attacked.
not. But when Jalen Hurts threw that interception in the game, I it was 10:45. I shut off the
Turn the TV off.
and I said, I'm leaving. Wow. I said, you're going to have to lose without me tonight. I said, I'm not staying up for you.
How
losers.
much time was left?
Well, like a whole quarter.
I've seen enough.
And I said, no.
Calling it.
Yeah.
Dagger. So I'm sorry that I was out of town, but we had a wonderful time in Washington. The weather was perfect, thank God, because everything else was chaotic.
Yeah,
and when you're walking around, you're doing like 12,000 steps a day.
Brag.
Again, it would have been nice to have talked to everyone. Like that was part of our whole plan to like get these interviews and see our folks. I want to do that every year.
You got some good ones.
But
though.
it would have been also really insane because we would like you're just running around. All you're doing on trips when like this, like everyone's like, oh, work trip. I guess it's gonna be fun.
Say what the word is via crossword clue here, okay? To carry around 6 letters. Schlep.
All you're doing is schlepping a 4-letter word.
Ooh, naughty word. Can't say.
I can't say.
I'll give you a beep. He didn't even say it, folks, okay?
We did get to see, and you guys will hear on Tuesday, got to catch up with Lisa Desjardins.
Iconic.
The PBS NewsHour.
Amazing.
Super helpful. So, again,
She's the
all of our
best.
interviews fell through. So I'm like, okay, pivot. Who can we do? Who can we talk to? And
Lisa D, dude.
And Meg Kennard was in D.C. too. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk to Meg. But then I was like, hey,
Classic
let me
friend
get
of
some
the pod.
PBS fam. Like, Lisa is the congressional correspondent. She's there day in, day out.
Yeah.
And then also got up with Josh Dawsey at the Wall Street Journal. He used to be at the Washington Post. So a lot of good connections. We got to get some good interviews and make the most of it. We got
Speaking of Meg, Gavin, you got a text.
Yes. So I was on my way to the airport in Washington.
Cool.
Meg had already left. She flew out earlier. And she had the sweetest little message. She said, the guy who had the seat next to me immediately recognized me from the lead/Twisk, a super fan. Shout out Nick from Irmo.
Nick from Irmo.
If you see Meg traveling, you can say hi to her. She'll speak to you.
She will. Approachable.
Meanwhile, I have my hat on. I have my glasses, my AirPods.
You look like the guy in Mean Girls where he's got the sunglasses.
Doesn't even go here.
Yeah.
Damien.
Yeah.
I will say, luckily, the good thing, too, when I was home, because I'm from that area
You are
originally,
from there, yes.
super fortunate. We got in on Sunday. We got to knock out a lot of stuff. And I was like, well, we got time. I should go see my mother.
That's nice.
It was nice. You get a little bit of that federal insight because everyone works for the federal government. So it's interesting to hear what they have to say about those things.
Just a strange little bubble for you to go into.
But when you're in your, you're wearing your suit around,
Gross.
which you think everyone would be wearing in DC, but everyone's pretty casual for the most part. So it's shocking when you see, 3 guys in suits with incredible hair, and they just everyone's always looking. I'm like, I'm nobody.
You have the head of hair of a famous of a god.
Yes,
king.
and I'm just like, and we're doing stand-ups in like Lafayette Square or like on the mall or something. And people are staring at.
Surely that's
they're
somebody.
Like, who's that?
Surely
and I'm like,
that's
guys,
somebody.
We're just making this look like we're a big deal. But also on my flight back, though, I was like, I'm going to run into someone. I've been running into people all throughout this trip. And I didn't, but Congressman Ro Khanna was on the flight. He was boarding right behind me. I was like, someone's just
not good enough for Group 4. He's Group 5.
He is in Group 5 with me, baby. So it's good to be back.
We're glad you are back.
Nick
Nick from Irmo, you got the call out. You have to call in now.
Or you have to go to Craft and Draft.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah, one or the other. Both work. Or call from Craft and Draft. Anyway, Gavin, so glad you're home.
I'm back.
Say the credits.
I'm saying them. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you, and thanks for listening to the pod, y'all. We love hearing from you, just like we heard from Amy. You can call us at 803-563-7169 and give us a shout. We appreciate that. Or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org, and don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
So, Gavin, you just got back from the Riyadh Comedy Festival?